I'm actually with Papa Roger on this one. I believe the car is a huge red herring. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer. Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Okay, so we've been going through the motions to suppress that were filed by Bryan Kohberger's defense team. We have one left after this one before we get to the arrest warrant. That's the one that we've really been waiting to dig into. Now, this one is for them to get rid of all of the information that came from the search of Bryan Kohberger's very specific vehicle, which is the reason why they have the VIN number. Now, I'm curious for this one, and I really am wondering why they're feeling the need to do this whenever they've stood up in court and stated there is no explanation for the lack of evidence in anything that belonged to Bryan, whether it be his office at WSU, whether it be his apartment, whether it be his parents' home in Pennsylvania where they arrested him, or it be his vehicle. There is no explanation for the lack of evidence. You pair that with the state standing up in court very hastily and with lots of attitude, claiming that all of the rumors about him stalking them and the social media stuff were false statements. When you hear that from the state, topped with everything that we've heard from the defense, you really kind of know where to go with it. Now, when it comes to the car, I believe it is a huge red herring. I don't think that this car literally had anything to do with anything. And I know that there's some people talking about the little footnote that was in the judge's decision about how the expert originally was on the 2011 to 2013 year. Well, most of us already know that from the PCA, and most of us that have been here for a long time also believe that they were going to keep to that until the feds gave them that little tree that they keep talking about. And then suddenly they were able to pull Bryan Kohberger's information and see the year of his car. Because in my brain, they probably brought that information to said FBI agent, and the FBI agent was probably like, maybe, but I'm probably still leaning on my original guess here. And they probably just took that maybe and went with it, thinking that it was going to work. And so far, none of those things have worked for them at all. Now, I'm going to assume that this expert is going to testify at trial, but being that this is a federal expert, he doesn't have to probably if he doesn't want to. I don't think a state court can demand and make a federal agent testify. I guess we shall see, because the whole car discrepancy really does need to be addressed, especially since we've had a lot of reports claiming that they originally were going to tell us that it was a Nissan. And then we had the body cam from Banfield pop down around the same time that we even heard about the white Elantra. And lo and behold, what do we see? A car that looks just like the one they told us that they were looking for, but it belongs to them. That was creepy. And then what did we have? The crashed car in Oregon, was it? Yeah, all at the same time. Very much odd. Now, this motion is to suppress all evidence gathered by law enforcement as a result of the entry into and search of Mr. Kohberger's vehicle. And again, copy, paste, copy, paste. The facts are all of the same. From this point, we've gone over the timeline in a lot of the videos so far. We've had this, especially in the one I did prior to this, where we went over his search and his person search in Idaho and in Pennsylvania. This timeline is in there, along with the affidavit being signed by Detective Payne, along with the basic facts and everything else being filed for the Franks motion. Here is where we're going to get to a little bit of difference maybe, but it doesn't really look like it. It looks like it's pretty much all the same, but we're going to go ahead and just start here. At 2:43 p.m. Pacific on December 29th of 22, a criminal complaint and probable cause order were filed in this matter. See, that's that criminal complaint at 2:43 p.m. What I don't really quite understand is why we're getting in the other documents that the criminal complaint was filed at 4 o'clock. And then they started swabbing him and taking photos of him at 4:10, but they entered his house at 1:14 to arrest him. That part, the 4 o'clock part's missing from this one, so that's interesting. At 10 p.m. Eastern, Pennsylvania SWAT began preparations to arrest Mr. Kohberger. Despite weeks of constant surveillance, Pennsylvania law enforcement did their own surveillance starting at 11:15 p.m. Eastern. And despite the fact that weeks of constant FBI surveillance showed Mr. Kohberger was unarmed and intended to go for runs around his parents' neighborhood, police decided attacking Mr. Kohberger within his parents' home was the best option. On December 30th of 2022 at 1:14 a.m., Pennsylvania SWAT and federal agents raided Mr. Kohberger's parents' home. During the raid, law enforcement found Mr. Kohberger's vehicle in the garage, seized and later searched it. Now, I've had people make a couple of comments about this whole like the car was in the garage thing. Let me tell you why I don't find this odd, okay? When my dad visits, I make him park in front of me so that me, the person who has to run to town and do errands and drive around, can get out of my driveway. Okay? So if Bryan was there for the holidays and his parents needed to leave the house, but he was parked behind them, he would have to move the vehicle, move it again whenever they got back so he could be the one always parked behind the car so they could park into the garage. To me, the way that I live my life, it makes more sense. And trust me, if there wasn't all that crap in the garage, all the stuff I got in there now, he'd probably be in the garage because he doesn't really use his truck whenever he's here. I'm the one who does all of the driving. So this makes sense to me for his car to be in the garage since he is visiting, and the car that gets driven all over the place while people are there and doing stuff, and for his mom and dad to leave and go about their daily business. It'd make more sense for that vehicle to be parked outside of the garage and the visiting car to be in the garage so that the person that needs to leave the most, it's more accessible to them. Their own vehicle is. It makes sense to me. I don't find this a red flag. Some people, drunk turkey, are running with it, and I find that stupid. Now, the rest of this, again, seems to be completely copy and paste, where they're really trying to narrow down this portion of the argument to whose rules should be the ruling ruler. Should it be Pennsylvania? Should it be the feds? Or should it be Idaho, whose protocols for these types of searches are actually the rules that are followed? Now, again, the way that I've mentioned this 1,000 times already, the fact that these things can and most likely are completely different is really stupid and causes these sorts of issues. These are the types of things that should be the same across the board. When it comes to rules of search and seizure, there should be no stipulations and no margins for error, which is exactly what they state here when they say it is not at all clear that whether a search should be judged by Idaho's standards of reasonableness or that of Pennsylvania, or in the case of the FBI agents, by the Fourth Amendment. They don't know whose rules to follow, which when there's a state that needs help arresting somebody from another state, it should be the arresting state's agency that gets to decide everything, that it should be that state's rules. And if it's so different, then make sure that you know to tell the other people, hey, we do this one thing differently. Don't screw us out of our arrest. Make sure that we do this one part right. I mean, come on, it really can't be that difficult, can it? They're stating here that his Fourth Amendment rights were violated whenever the vehicle was entered without a warrant. Police cannot search a vehicle within the curtilage of a home without a warrant. Mr. Kohberger's vehicle was in his parents' garage in a home where he was an overnight guest. Overnight guests have an expectation of privacy in the home where they stay. Therefore, he had an expectation of privacy in the contents of his vehicle, and a warrant was required. Now, if that 4 a.m. timeline for that like other criminal complaint where they did the body stuff, that's a lot of stuff that was done illegally for there to still be no explanation for the lack of evidence. I'm just saying. Again, how he's arguing in separate motions for the IGG information, and of course, it's going to conclude the same way that the rest of them have. Now, again, there is no explanation for the lack of evidence in Mr. Kohberger's car. There is no explanation for the lack of evidence in Mr. Kohberger's apartment. There is no explanation for the lack of evidence between Mr. Kohberger and the victims. That's really all that I can tell you for now, because that's what's been said in court. That's not me making it up because I'm some weird pro-burger like some of you weirdos like to call us people with brains. You know, it's kind of funny. Some idiot asked me if I would date Bryan Kohberger, and my response was, are you going to go to my Richard Allen videos and ask me the same damn question or what? I swear, some people just need to get off of the internet. But I want to know what you guys think about all of this so far down in the comments. We've had so much information about this car and so many discrepancies. So many discrepancies. So many issues, so many discrepancies, so many problems, so many more questions. A lot of them just around this damn car. It'd be really nice to finally get some answers, yeah? Again, let's hope that speedy trial thing actually happens and they can get that going again, because let's get to the facts. Policies, I get you're doing your job, but can we get to the case facts, please? Come on. And again, let me know what you guys think down in the comments about all of this so far. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that your notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.